So before we talk about disruption or deviation, I think we have to talk about tension, because tension sort of precedes disruptive forces or deviating forces. Gentrification in the urban space is happening in Bushwick at an ever-quickening rate, and it causes a lot of tension for me because if you know anything about Bushwick, you know that it's being gentrified, and you know that if you know anything about Bushwick, you know that it's right next to Williamsburg. Bushwick is east of Williamsburg, and if you know anything about Williamsburg in New York City, if you know anything about indie culture, indie music, hipster culture, the show Girls, or gentrification, you know that Williamsburg is the mecca of all of those things. See, before Williamsburg became Williamsburg of today, about 20 years ago, it started to change. Before the hipsters and the artists came to the neighborhood, Williamsburg was mostly a Polish community of working class people. So eventually, the gentrifiers started to come in, the artists started to come in, and they started to see the neighborhood as something that was cheap. They liked the urban space. And as the artists came, then the yuppies started to come in, and then the hipsters started to come in and say, wow, this is a really nice neighborhood. We should fix it up. And so that started happening in the early 90s, mid-90s. And so as it gentrified, the gentrification started to spread east, which is Bushwick. Bushwick is east. I'm from Bushwick. I live on the eastern side of Bushwick. Gentrification started to take hold on the western side of Bushwick. But this causes a lot of tension for me because I sort of have met a lot of good people in Bushwick. See, when you're 14, 15, 16, you know, a Latino, kid, and you see all these foreigners coming into the neighborhood, tech people, yuppies, artists. I don't like to use yuppies, sort of pejorative. When you see all of these people coming into the neighborhood, they start showing you what the world could be outside of Bushwick. I grew up in a working class family. No one ever went to college before I came to Colby. And they started to inspire me. But this is sort of problematic for me because these are the same people that could displace my mom or my dad at any time. So how can we disrupt the traditional narrative, gentrification narrative? Obviously, gentrification is dependent upon a lot of economic processes and structures that sort of spur it on. And that's sort of inexorable. It's sort of unstoppable. And so I'm just one person. But nevertheless, I've never let structures or economics neutralize my agency. I've always sort of believed that I could do something about it. So with disrupting the traditional gentrification narrative, I believe that people coming into the gentrified space, the urban space, I feel like if they want to be a part of the community, they should contribute to it. And a lot of the tension would go away. Because a lot of the tension derives from the local people feeling like these people are coming in and taking over the space, because that's what gentrification does. It transforms the urban space. The urban space is subordinated or exoticized or co-opted by people coming into the space and believing that it's cheap. You can capitalize on it, especially in terms of housing stock. See, around the early 2000s, mid-2000s, a lot of these artists started to come into the neighborhood, and they started to do artwork like this, which is really, really inspiring to me. This is like 3 blocks from where I live. This used to be just like factory buildings. There used to be a lot of crime. And they've taken this and sort of have used the space as a canvas to create things like this and like this and like this, and this is really inspiring to me. I didn't see this 5, 6 years ago. But nevertheless, you have the artists coming in, you have the techies coming in, you have all of these people with specialized skills coming in. It's really inspiring. But at the same time, it's sort of problematic for me. Like I said, these people could displace my family. So you want these people to come in and contribute something, They have so many resources. They're so resourceful. They're so smart. They come from all over the United States and the globe. I've met people from Japan. I've met people from LA. I've met people from Europe. you know, from Asia coming into my neighborhood. And before, it wasn't like that. It was just Latino people, Dominican, Mexican, Puerto Rican. And that diversity was sort of inspirational, but at the same time, it's problematic. So I believe that you can disrupt the tension by having these people come in and contribute to the community in their own ways. So this sort of causes tension in me, because some people might call this idealist or neocolonial. Obviously, first it assumes that people coming into the neighborhood would want to contribute to the space in a sort of civic engagement type of way. It assumes that they would want to contribute. Secondly, it also assumes that the people coming in would sort of play a savior type of role. And in my mind, it's sort of problematic, because it smacks of neocolonialism, and you know, it's idealistic, and maybe it might not work. But nevertheless, I think that when you're coming into a gentrified space and you want to be a part of the community, you know, you can contribute stuff. You can make it what you want it to be. And so I believe that that takes understanding, respect, and sensitivity. What do I mean by those things? Understanding. Mutual understanding between people of different cultures. See, the reason it's sort of problematic for me is because I've met a lot of good people in Bushwick. People coming in, people who've just moved in 5, 7, 10 years ago. And I've gotten so close with those, you know, those people, white, middle class, the yuppies, the artists. I've grown to really admire them, and we've grown close. And we've grown so close that, you know, they've expressed to me that they understand that the community is being gentrified. They understand that they're sort of coming in as an outsider. They understand that they're pushing people out. And I'm glad that they understand that. I'm glad that they're sensitive to those issues. Because if they weren't sensitive to those issues, you know, they'd just be moving in and pushing people out, and it'd be sort of a callous process. So I've bridged the gaps. I've met people older than me, younger than me, my age. That's sort of been inspirational, because you have people from Oklahoma coming to New York City and settling in Bushwick. And I've made a lot of friends, a lot of close friends that I really care about. But again, obviously, these people can displace people like me. So they have that understanding, that respect, and that sensitivity, and I think that's sort of what we need. So I'd like you guys to see a video. It's from San Francisco in the Mission District. It speaks to what can happen when people come in and don't respect the space. Obviously, gentrification is transforming the space. And that's going to happen. That's what gentrification does. It comes in, it invades. And that's sort of inexorable, like I said. But we can disrupt the traditional narrative if we, you know, we pay attention, if the techies pay attention. So this takes place in the Mission District in San Francisco, and I'd like you to watch it and see what you gather from it.
6:55, homies are playing. They're waiting for the field at 7. It's about to go down.
We have the 7-8. Yes, you do speak English. I heard you earlier. Yeah, we have the 7-8. Good? Really? Yeah.
Yo, there is no 7 to 8 anything. If you want to play pickup, you play pickup like the rest of us.
It's not
You
pickup.
don't
You
get
can
the
book the
fucking
field.
You can book the fucking field. Just because you got money and you can pay for the field, you don't get to book it for an hour to take over these kids' fucking like play.
It's Connor
It's
here?
bullshit. No, it's bullshit.
Excuse me, sir, you don't have the paper for the rent, you know?
You never have to.
Let me see the paper for the rent, you know?
I don't have it. Connor has it. My friend booked it.
Who's Connor?
So divide it.
So until he comes,
then you guys get the field.
You got the
You
permit?
know what?
That's fine. That's fine.
Let me see. Let me see.
Is Connor
Hey, let me see. No.
Yeah,
I mean, if it was Connor, I'm pretty sure you'd be here at 7 to 8.
Yeah, 7 to 8.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you'd be here 7 to 8. It's not.
Yeah. So, because I don't know what, you know what I mean. So, can you let me see your paper for the rent?
Yeah,
Okay, you can do it 1 hour or 2 hours, wherever you want to do it. Let me see.
Our friend booked it. He's not here
I
yet.
respect you.
Yo, you don't understand. You don't understand. It's not about
I don't-
booking
I
the
didn't book
field.
it.
It doesn't matter. This field has never been booked. Okay. You don't understand.
So
This field has never been booked. The last 3 years. How long have you been in the neighborhood, bro? How long have you been in the neighborhood?
Who gives a shit who?
Over a year.
Who cares about the neighborhood?
Oh my God.
Did you hear what the last guy said? Who gives a shit about the neighborhood? Obviously, he said that real quick and in passing. He probably didn't understand the full implications of what he said. But who gives a shit about the neighborhood? Obviously, you know, that sort of speaks to the lack of care, and that's inherent in the process of gentrification. I'm not trying to demonize gentrifiers. Like I said, I have a lot of people who are counted as gentrifiers who've moved into my neighborhood, like the Mission District in San Francisco. And I care about them, and I think they can have meaningful, profound contribution on my community. But at the same time, I think we should be cognizant of the fact that things are changing. That if you come into the neighborhood, and if you're a gentrifier, if you're a techie person, if you're an artist with money, you're going to displace some people. And that's probably going to happen. But in the meantime, you can come in and contribute to the youth. You can use your specialized skills to teach code writing. Or you can teach an art class. You know, there's so much good art that's going up in Bushwick, and I love it. I love going home and seeing the new pieces of art on this brick wall. I love it, you know, because 10 years ago it wasn't like that. I couldn't go outside because it was dangerous. So, to conclude, I think if gentrifiers are going to move into the urban space, just be cognizant, be understanding, be sensitive, and that will contribute to a more integrated and a community with less tension, so that people like me growing up can have a good, sort of peaceful existence. Thank you.